Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Advanced Forecast. My name is Kate, and I am a member of the Max marketing team. If you have come to some of our earlier webinars, you may have heard from me before. We are recording this session for internal purposes. If you have any questions, please enter them into our Q&A panel, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. All right, Denise, take it away.
All right, thanks, Kate. And my name is Denise Meyer, and I'll be your presenter for today's webinar. Today we're going to look at demand planning and management tools that work together with your Max Exact system. I'm then going to share my desktop with you, and we'll take a look at the forecast management tools as well as the Max Advanced Forecast Management module. From there, we'll open it up for questions and answers and provide next steps that help you take advantage of the solutions that we're reviewing together. Let's get started. Okay, in today's competitive manufacturing market, satisfying customers while keeping your costs low is of utmost importance. Manufacturers have to run a very tight ship, and producing too much or too little product can have significant impact on the bottom line. And it can also cause problems across other business functions, from finance to the production floor. Now, to minimize these problems, manufacturers must run their organization holistically to ensure that everyone is working in lockstep to minimize costs and take advantage of opportunities. Of course, the ability to do all of this starts with accurate demand planning and management. When this is done well, the organization can then integrate plans for finance, supply chain, and operations. Demand planning allows you to project future requirements so that a forecast can be generated. And with this forecast, you can drive inventory planning and order planning and replenishment with the rest of your Max modules. Now, there are many components that factor into generating a good and meaningful forecast, so it's important to have a flexible file and tools to work with to generate that forecast information. Historical sales often feed into and drive future forecasts, promotion plans, pricing changes, new product introductions for products that weren't in last year's forecast might need to be included in this year's plan. You might also get specific input from customers, or you might have seasonality factors, and all of these contribute to the forecast and need to be included. Now, this chart is data that I gathered from the Aberdeen Group from a survey that they did, and it lists the top manufacturing challenges when it comes to demand planning. There are many competing pressures in a manufacturing business, and unpredictable and changing demands is one of the top pressures today. Collecting the right data from both internal and external customers can be difficult, but it's necessary to get that information and to organize it and use that data to drive material and inventory planning. Now, within your Max Master Scheduling module, you have the ability to create a forecast order. A forecast order is a discrete record that lists the item being forecasted, the quantity, and the date that that forecast demand is required. Max will use each of these forecast records, and it will net that against the actual sales order demand. Max plans for the greater of forecast versus actual demand within a given planning period. Now, the planning period ties back to the Max order policy code for the item being forecasted. So, for example, if you use a weekly order policy code, then the forecast and the sales order demand will be summed together for that week. Max will then compare the two, forecast versus actual sales demand, and it will plan for the greater of the two. So if you start off within a given period and your forecast is, say, 100, and your sales orders are 0, Max will plan for a quantity of 100. As soon as your sales exceed your forecast, let's say 125, it knows that actual demand is now greater than forecast, and it will begin to plan to the higher level, 125. This screen is the Order Summary Inquiry screen, which is available within the Master Scheduling module. It's a terrific view for being able to compare your forecast demand with your actual customer sales orders, and it also gives visibility of dependent demand if you have components that are also spare parts or are also used in next hire assemblies. Max will sum together all demand components to show you a total demand figure and compare this to projected supply, incorporate any planned scrap percentages, and then give you the net available over time. This Order Summary Inquiry allows you to bucket your information weekly, monthly, or quarterly, depending on your planning process. However, there are a couple of drawbacks to entering forecast orders directly within the Max Master Scheduling module. Some customers have found that inputting forecast data using a screen-based method and not a grid-based method is time-consuming, and if you're dealing with many forecast quantities for an item with different dates and different parts, that can take up quite a bit of time. Also, within the Master Scheduling module, past forecast orders are not automatically deleted, and they need to be manually manipulated, which can also be very time-consuming. There's no real way to generate a forecast within the Master Scheduling module so that you can use that to predict future demand. But now we have a terrific solution that's made available for Max users, and that is the Max Advanced Forecast module. It provides an easy-to-use Excel spreadsheet interface that can be generated from your Max past sales information or usage data. Because it's Excel, it's flexible and easy to update. So if you want to take last year's data and project it forward with an increased percentage, Excel is an easy tool to increase and utilize that uptick. You can also modify that easily to incorporate additional data that wasn't previously in Max, such as promotional plans or new product introductions. Max will then take that spreadsheet and it will load that back into Max, consuming the forecast on the load. In other words, it's going to net that forecast against the sales orders already in Max, so that what's loaded back into Max is a net forecast quantity. And when it does that, it also deletes any past due forecast orders, so there's no manual manipulation. It all occurs with an automated process. The Advanced Forecast module also includes sales forecast accuracy analysis and reporting tools. All right, this is a screen from the Advanced Forecast module. As you can see here up in the top left, you can select whether you want to generate your forecast using prior sales information or usage data. You can specify date ranges and also add filters to make customer-specific forecasts or stockroom-specific forecasts. Using this forecast generator, the Advanced Forecast module for Max is going to create a spreadsheet interface that groups the items as well as the quantities and dates into a Microsoft Excel forecast. Now, this spreadsheet interface then provides the flexibility to allow you to manipulate that easily, optimize the forecast with all inputs and parameters that drive your demand planning so that that's ready to load back into Max with an easy 1, 2, 3 process. The first step is to import the spreadsheet into the database. Second step is to net that out against existing sales. And step number 3 is to load that net forecast back into Max. It terrifically simplifies the process and collects data analysis in the process so that you can analyze your forecast accuracy by period or by item and constantly improve that demand planning process. So with that introduction to the Advanced Forecast module from Max, I'm going to share my desktop and we're going to take a look at how it works. You should be seeing the System Manager on my screen now, and this tool is a tool provided by one of our partners, Balance Point, and so what I've done is I've put it onto my Master Scheduling module within the Materials section of Max. When I click on the Master Scheduling module, I now have a tool called the Advanced Forecasting tool. The Advanced Forecasting module has full security. And the initial screen provides tools to allow you to set up your forecast tables, the bucketing format that you'd like to use. In other words, do you want to forecast weekly, monthly, multiple periods per month? What are the parameters that you want to use to drive your forecast management? Now, one of the options included with the Max Forecast module is to generate the forecast from your Max sales history. So I'm going to click on that option, and I'm going to select to use my past sales as a source for generating my new forecast. I'm going to have this take 2 years' worth of history, and I'm going to do it for all customers and all stock rooms. At the bottom of my screen, I can simply select parts. And I've asked it to identify just my final items that are included in my part sales file. If you uncheck this option, it can use usage information to generate a forecast for all levels of your product. All right, with that, I'm now going to click on my History tab, and by selecting the Get History option, it's going to read my prior Max sales orders, bucket this out into different periods with the quantities that were sold in my prior orders. And then I can click the Create Spreadsheet function, which will take this data and generate a Max forecast spreadsheet. I've elected to update this with monthly buckets, so you see those out across the top going out 2 years. And then down each row then is the part numbers that are coming from my prior sales orders and the quantities that are listed into each of those periods. Now, because this is Excel, if I wanted to then increase a particular item by, say, 20%, I can simply highlight the row or column and make changes to those in my Excel spreadsheet. Once I have that saved, then I can come back into my Advanced Forecast module, and I can perform the steps to net that forecast and load it into Max. As I mentioned earlier, this is as easy as 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to select to import the forecast from my spreadsheet, and I'll click the Process button. Once that is complete, then I can net this forecast against my existing sales orders and process once more. And finally, the last step in the process is to load this data back into Max, netting against my current sales order demand. And that's all there is to it. With that simple process, I've now loaded up all of my forecast records from my spreadsheet. That's created independent demand forecast orders for each of my parts, quantities, and dates, so there's no manual manipulation. Of course, if there is a specific order that I want to modify or update, I have full access to do so with drill-down capabilities to that forecast, where I can update a quantity or a date as needed. And then Max will take this information and it will net it down using MRP. One of the great screens is the MRP summary screen, which shows my forecast demand across the top, my actual customer and dependent demand, and then total demand and supply information. So as you can see, the Advanced Forecast module really works to simplify the process, incorporate a flexible and easy-to-use spreadsheet that can be loaded in and netted against your current MAX sales for overall better data manipulation and easier maintenance of that demand planning process. So with that, I'm now going to return back to my original screen. And to summarize, the Advanced Forecast module for MAX can greatly help you improve your demand planning process by generating a forecast for you based on sales or usage information. With the Excel interface, you've got an easy way to incorporate data that the computer doesn't know about, such as additional promotional plans, seasonal information, or an increase projected in sales. With this new forecast generated, you can net that out with your existing sales and load it into MAX with a simple 1, 2, 3 process. And using Crystal reports, we provide tools to analyze the results for better and smoother demand planning. So at this point, what I'd like to do is open it up for questions and answers. Kate, if you could open up the chat panel and let me know if we have any questions from the group.
Okay, great. Thanks, Denise. Let me take a look. All right, it looks like we have a couple questions. The first one is, how much does the module cost?
Okay, great. Thanks, Kate. The Advanced Forecast module for MAX is an expansion module, and the cost is $2,500 plus 20% maintenance. We do typically recommend 1 to 2 days of implementation assistance so we can help you set up those demand planning processes.
And if they want to order that, they can contact you?
They should contact their MAX Customer Success Manager, and they'd be happy to get you a quote and help you get started.
Okay, great, thanks. And I got another question. Do you have an example of someone who's used this before and how it's worked out for them?
Yes, I sure do. We have quite a number of customers actually who have used this, but one of them I'm thinking of in particular had a forecast process with literally about 500 items that needed to be forecasted over a future period. So as you can imagine, entering in individual forecast orders for each one of those 500 parts for multiple quantities and periods was quite time-consuming. They implemented the Advanced Forecast module, and within a week, they had automated this demand management and planning process, been able to use this to generate their forecasts automatically and load them back into MAX with no data manipulation. So needless to say, they were very, very happy. It saved them about a day and a half per week of work of one person having to go in and maintain that forecast.
That's a great story, Denise. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
It looks like we don't have any other questions. Do you mind pulling up the screen with your contact information?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So Denise has been so kind as to provide her email address and phone number. I believe she's on the West Coast, so please be mindful of that if you give her a call. Additionally, we do have a survey to assess if this session has addressed your needs, if there's anything we could do to improve. That will open up automatically when you close WebEx. So we'd really appreciate if you took a couple moments to fill it out and to help us improve and understand what we're doing well and what could be better. So again, thank you everyone for your attention, and we hope to see you again at a future webinar. As you can see, you can contact your exact Customer Success Manager for a personal business review and tailored presentation by calling 855-392-2862. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you all again soon.